Hello and welcome back to Watching God with your host Watchful. In this video, we're going to cover the tribulation seals. I believe that they have been opened, and I believe that I can show you the stars and dates to prove it. So let's hop right into it. So we start in Matthew 2. This is where the Magi are looking for Jesus, and they're in Bethlehem, and we pick it up in verse 9 here. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. The point of showing you this is showing you that signs in heaven can point to places on earth. So the Magi would have looked at this star, which, if you watched my previous video, you'll know that that's Jupiter. It was in retrograde above Bethlehem at the time that they were looking for Jesus. So God knew that they would be looking for him, and he had that star positioned over Bethlehem so that they knew where he was. So we can see from this scripture that celestial events can point to physical locations on the planet, which that's going to be really important when we're looking at decoding Revelation, the book of Revelation. So in Revelation 12, there in 12:1 it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet." So this is what that looked like. The first time that this appeared was September 11th, 3 BC. And the first time that this showed up, it was announcing the birth of Jesus. And a year to 2 years later, there was continuing celestial events that were happening that the Magi saw that eventually led them to Bethlehem. That's why Herod had all the children 2 years and under, because that was the age that he diligently inquired from them about how old they were. So by the time they had actually gotten to Jesus, he was about 2 years old. So it's fascinating that God knew when they would be looking for his star, and he made sure that it actually pointed them in the right direction. So we can learn from this and apply that same concept to where we are today. So this Revelation 12 sign, it didn't only happen on September 11th, 3 BC. It also happened on September 23rd, 2017. Although this time it says, at this time when it happened, there was the crown of 12 stars. So if you continue reading in Revelations 12:1 and 2, it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered." So here we have the woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet. This time she has a crown of 12 stars. So there's a dual purpose to this sign. The first time it was announcing Jesus coming for the first time. This time it's announcing him coming as king. A lot of people thought that this was going to be the day that he was going to return, that the gathering together, the rapture was going to happen. However, if you've read the book of Revelation, you know there's a series of events that need to take place before he returns. So we've got the 7 seals, the 7 bowls, and the 7 trumpets. We also have the gathering together, and then we have his return, plus a lot of other stuff that takes place during that time. So it stands to reason that he would tell us, he would warn us before he's coming. And he did. So the dual purpose of this sign. And one thing that I think is important to note is this sign never happens again. I've checked 2,000 years in both directions from this date. You get this first sign when Jesus was born seems to happen in one form or another every couple thousand of years. But this fullness of this sign, him coming as a king, I can't find it anywhere else. If you can find it, let me know. But I wasn't able to find it, and I did look, about 7,000 years in both directions. Pretty easy in Stellarium. All right, preceding that sign, so this was the month before that sign showed up, there was an eclipse in the United States. A lot of people, I'm sure, remember this. I remember it vividly. We stood out on our back patio with our eclipse glasses to watch the eclipse that particular day. I still remember it to this day even. The interesting thing to note about this is it was primarily over the United States. I believe that this is God marking out who the first beast is from Revelation 13, because we see that Revelation 12, that sign, has a dual purpose. It announces Jesus coming. It announced the first time when he's coming as a baby, and now it's announcing him coming as a king. So and I guess you'd say first time announcing him coming as a man, the next one coming as our Christ, our Messiah, our Savior, our King. And there's a series of celestial events that have been taking place since then that line up with Revelation and reveal a lot of the hidden meaning that's in Revelation. And I want to show that to you today. So here we have the eclipse that marks out the border of the United States, but that's not enough. Let's see if we can't find some more that tells us that this is actually what this is doing. If you read in Revelation 13, it says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion." So there's some vivid imagery here. And one thing that I've discovered is when these beasts, they're not actually beast here. So this is actually living creature. So there's 2 usages of the word beast in Revelation. One is living creature. The other one is wild animal. This one here is living creature. And it seems that whenever this living creature is used, it's referring to constellations. Whenever the wild animal one is used, it's in reference to a kingdom. And I'll get into that here in a minute so that you can see. Actually, this one, yeah. I could be wrong about that, actually. I'm not wrong about the 2 different beasts, but here, the point is this is actually pointing to constellations. And here, I'll show you what that means here. So when there was this eclipse that went over the United States, so that was August 21st, 2017. If you were standing on the coast over here in Florida on the sand looking out, you've got nothing but ocean. These are the constellations that would have been coming up out of the ocean. You've got Ursa Major, Leo Minor, Leo, and Lynx. So you've got the mouth of a lion, you've got the feet of the bear, and the feet of the lynx. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. So later on that day, during the eclipse, this is what's above the United States. So if you're standing in the United States, pretty much anywhere in the United States, these are the constellations that you're looking at during that eclipse. I think God is marking out where the first beast is of Revelation 13. And if you continue reading in Revelation 13, it says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death." If you remember, September 11th, 2001, the United States was attacked, and the Taliban did this attack on our Twin Towers and at the Pentagon because they thought that it would destroy the United States. So as it were wounded unto death, I think that actually fits. And it was pretty miraculous the way that we came back. And our relationship with China was strengthened as a result of this. And I think that's important in the when we start looking at the second beast that's talked about in Revelation 13. Interesting to note that also on that day, August 21st, 2017, this was the constellation that was down below the Ursa Major, Lynx, and Leo. Draco was right there also. And it says, "And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." So let's continue reading in Revelations 13, 11 through 18, and let's look at the second beast. "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." So on June 21st, 2020, there was another annular solar eclipse, only this one primarily went over China. And if you were standing right here in China, right here, I got this arrow, and you were looking out to the east, this is what you would be seeing. You would see Aries rising up out of the land, and Aries is a lamb with the 2 horns of a ram. So this was June 21st, 2020. And then later on that day, this was the eclipse that was in the sky, and then Aries is over here. So I think the first beast is the United States. Let's go read this. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? That's definitely said about the United States. We are one of the world superpowers. You've got the United States, Russia, and China, basically. Arguably, there's others, but definitely you feel a certain level of comfort living in these areas, believing that you're safe, right? And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So I think the first beast is the United States. I think the stars point that out. Revelation, the beasts that are shown in Revelations, I believe they're referring to the constellations, and they're literally marking out who the first beast is. And then the second beast, definitely think that is China. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. You know, China is called the Great Red Dragon, and dragon is referred to a lot in Revelations. So it would stand to reason that God is making it pretty obvious to us who's in charge. I've been watching some interesting documentaries and some news about China lately. There was one from Sky News Australia that China is looking to pretty much conquer the world under the command of tremble and obey. Xi Jinping has recently said that he's going to start Armageddon. I don't think that's a coincidence. Anyway, so bringing this up to your attention to start paying attention to it. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. I don't think it's any secret that the U.S.-China relationship got better after we were attacked on 9/11. You see a lot of big companies that sprang up as a result of that. Look at Amazon. The majority of the stuff that's sold on Amazon comes from China. They've made a lot of people rich, and they've caused the entire world to worship the United States and our idea of capitalism. And I honestly think that it's pretty much a house of cards. They've been using this tactic to not only infiltrate the United States, but to also infiltrate other countries under the guise of this idea of wealth and capitalism. And I think it's allowed them to infiltrate and get a foothold so that they can actually control the people in the country so that they could take over without much difficulty. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So they've definitely been showing off. They recently launched a supersonic missile that the United States has pretty much come out and said they can't defend against. So it's pretty much out there that they can drop a nuclear bomb on anybody that they want, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. So it really seems like this second beast is probably China. So power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live. This usually means wound by a weapon or wound by an attack, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. I think this might be future. I think this is coming. After seeing some of the things that are being said, there's a really good documentary by Sky News Australia where the expectation is tremble and obey or die, to where they want to conquer the whole world. China's one of the oldest countries on the world, on the planet. I don't know if you know that, but China has gone through a lot of iterations to get to where it is today, and they want to be the leading superpower. And 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So, armed with this information, I think we have a better understanding to be able to identify what that mark is. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but with this in mind, I think we have all the information we need to actually start identifying that. I don't know if it's the jab. I honestly don't. But I think that's definitely the forerunner, considering where it came from and what it's doing to the world. So here's that annular solar eclipse. I think we already handled this. Aries. Yep. Okay. So now let's get into the seals, because that's really what I want to show is Revelation 12. That Revelation 12 sign, it had a dual purpose. It announces Jesus coming. The second time that we saw it, it announces him coming as king. And it also points us in the direction of identifying the first and second beast. So what that's going to allow us to do is it gives us the information that we need to be able to identify the seals and the events that are leading to the different parts of Jesus's return. So we start with the seals of Revelation 6. I believe that they are a countdown. They mark the start of events leading to Jesus's return. So this is kind of an idea of what that scroll would look like with the seven seals. Yep. And so in order to get an understanding of the seals, we have to start back in Revelations 4, because this is going to describe the living creatures, and it's going to give us time and location. And you'll understand that after I finish reading this. So Revelations 4, 1 through 6. After this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were a trumpet talking with me, and he said, "Come up hither." So this is John. He's in Greece on the island of Patmos, and he has a vision, and the angel says, "Come up hither," and he's calling him up to Polaris, the North Star, and I'll show you later how I know that. "And I will show thee things which much must come hereafter. And immediately after I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne in the sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. So this is what Revelation 4 is actually describing. So you've got, and he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne in the sight like unto an emerald. So this is jasper, this is the sardine stone, and this is emerald. So you've got the color of emerald here, you've got the color of sardine, and you've got the color of jasper. If you're looking at the North Pole from space, this is what the aurora borealis looks like. So it perfectly fits that description. What Revelation 4 is telling us is it's giving us a location from which to start identifying events. And then the next is the beasts. These are going to add additional information to the location. These are going to indicate time that we should be paying attention to these events happening. So in Revelation 4, 7 through 11, it says, "And the first beast," this is the word zoon, it means living creature, which means constellation. I've come to find out that this means constellation in this context, "was a lion, and the second beast like a calf," which is the word bull. "And the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. And the four beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within. And they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fell down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. All right, so we've got a lot going on here. Let me break this down for you. So first of all, they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. So to understand this, look at Psalms 19, 1 through 5. It says, The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. In Genesis 1:14, we learn that God set the sun, moon, and stars for signs, seasons, days, and years. If we get further information on that the stars show knowledge. So all this is saying is that they rest not night and day, saying, Holy, holy, holy. That's because the plan of redemption for mankind is written in the stars. So they give glory to God, and that's what they're doing day and night. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. All right, next. So this is what Revelations 4 is actually describing. So imagine if you're at Polaris, which is above the North Pole. Polaris is the star that is used for navigation on the planet because it doesn't move significantly enough to change where you're going on the planet. So it's used for navigation, especially on boats when you're on the ocean. So imagine you're at Polaris, you're looking down at Earth, you see the Aurora Borealis, and then over here you see the constellation Aquila, over here you see Ophiuchus, you've got Leo, and you've got Taurus. So you have the beasts with the face of an eagle, face of a man, face of a lion, face of an ox. So Revelation 4 is describing the elements that we need to be able to identify time. So in Revelation 6, this is where we learn about the seals. So now that we know the beasts that are talked about here, now we can start to get an understanding of what they're calling attention to. So in Revelation 6:1, it says, And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. The pair of balances is yoke. And it's specifically in reference to a yoke of bondage or slavery. Also, inconvenient law was another usage. And I heard in the middle of the 4 beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Okay, so let's break this down. So, the first seal, and I saw when the Lamb had opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. So remember that illustration I showed you? One of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So the first seal, I believe, is pointing us to December 26, 2019. There was an eclipse, and it happened. So if you can imagine, if you're at the North Pole and you have this beast right here, Aquila, say, Come and see, to look at the particular events, underneath Aquila, you have Sagittarius. And there was an annular solar eclipse. That's the one that looks like a crown because the moon isn't big enough to block out the sun. But we also happen to have Jupiter in conjunction here, which is significant. Anytime there's a conjunction, it's usually it's significant of something happening, especially when it's in conjunction with a solar eclipse. So we have, and I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. What's significant about this day is this is when the coronavirus was officially unleashed. There are records of it potentially happening earlier, but this is when the world basically knew about it. And I think that's what God is pointing our attention to. And that's why he gave us the description of the beasts. The beasts draw our attention to celestial events, and the celestial events draw our attention to events that are happening on the earth. And it going forth, conquering and to conquer, I think is relevant to what the coronavirus has done. There are very few events that affect the entire world. Specifically, you have Noah's flood that wiped away everybody except for 8 people. There are wars, but you could argue if they affect everybody in the entire world. A pandemic definitely does. Sure, there might be somebody on an island somewhere who's not affected, but by and large, the entire world is affected by the coronavirus. So I think it's safe to say that this you could say that has gone forth conquering and to conquer. So just to give you a better idea of what's being said here in Revelation 6, so this is up at the North Pole. You have Aquila say, "Come and see." And then you come and see, and then down below Aquila, you have Sagittarius. So, and then this is interesting to note is if you were in Wuhan, China, most eclipses, so you've seen a couple eclipses before so far, they usually mark out, they're visible from locations on the planet. So it's interesting to note that this particular eclipse was visible from China. There is something interesting about this one is it's primarily visible from Iraq over Indonesia and the Philippines. I bet you there's more that we don't know that happened here that would be worth looking into, because as you've seen with the first 2 eclipses that I show you, they were very specific. The one that was over the United States, the one that was over China. God's not messing around. He's pointing things out very intentionally for us, and those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, we should be able to identify this and have concrete, irrefutable evidence that God is working, and we know our King is returning. So here's an illustration, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. These are some of the events that have happened since COVID, and this doesn't even go far enough. We're a lot further along than this, but it's definitely going forth conquering and to conquer with all the stuff that's been going on. All right, so the second seal. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. So this was December 14th, 2020. This happened to be an eclipse under Ophiuchus right here. So this guy calls, "Come and see." You come see this. Mercury is in conjunction. Mercury represents Gabriel, the messenger. Also known as the red planet. I think the horses and the color of the horses is in reference to the celestial item that's identifying the seal. So the first one we had Jesus. It was a white horse. Jesus obviously has white robes. White represents purity, righteousness. And then you have red. More accurately, I believe this red is fire. Interesting to note that Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, so that would make sense that this would be the next horse. On that day is when the Electoral College officially announced Biden winning the presidency, and then Trump lost. Trump had a legacy of peace, that's for sure. He signed many peace deals, introduced the Abraham Accords. He talked to people that no one had talked to before, like Kim Jong-un and stuff like that. And the events that leading up to the election and after the election definitely has taken peace from the whole earth, even considering like, our withdrawal from Afghanistan, giving our enemy $85 billion worth of the most advanced weaponry on the planet. I'm pretty confident that this second seal was opened on December 14th, 2020. Also of note, this was the first day of the federally approved vaccine. So is that the sword that he was given? Could be the presidency, could be the vaccine. I don't think the vaccine is necessarily the mark of the beast. I think it's just a weapon. I could be wrong about that. So just an illustration here. You've got the beast with the face of a man saying, "Come and see." Down here, you have this this celestial event that's drawing our attention to a place on the planets. And here's something interesting to note. This eclipse was best visible above South America. I don't know why that is, but it's definitely worth looking into. Okay, also interesting to note, Ophiuchus here, right here. See this right here? That's the Dark Horse Nebula. Thought that was fascinating. Oh, and another thing that happened on that day is Jupiter and Saturn were in conjunction. And if I remember correctly, I believe after this, a couple days after this, they were in occultation. That's where Jupiter completely blotted out Saturn. I remember going out in my field and looking at this and seeing this and wondering what prophetic event this was referring to. Really fascinating. Okay, so yeah, here's where the eclipse was visible. It'd be interesting to see why that's here. I know God's pointing our attention here for a reason. I just don't know what it is right now. All right, so this is what we have so far. So in Revelation 4, it's basically describing a timepiece. Hopefully this makes it very clear for you. You've got the seal number 1 right here. You've got seal number 2 right here. The second and third seal, I don't have as high a confidence that I know the dates on yet that I have these ones. But I have some interesting information. I have some options. Let's go through them. So the third seal, I think this is probably the highest probability. My confidence is getting a little bit higher on this. Right now it's still not 100%. So let's read it. So Revelation 6:5 says, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, 'Come and see.' And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand." So this was June 10th, 2021. This wasn't an eclipse, but this was an unusual conjunction. So we had Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and the moon. So these guys are in conjunction in Capricorn. And you have Aquarius over here, which is pictured having a yoke. This is actually called a yoke that he's holding right there. The word yoke, the balances here is in reference to kind of a bondage or a yoke that would be on cattle to pull the machinery that plows a field. So something else interesting to know about this particular seal and horse is it's the only one that says, "And I beheld." I'm wondering if that's not indicating that it's not the same as the first two. The first two were eclipses. Perhaps the third one wasn't an eclipse. It was a conjunction. The reason why this one drew my attention is because Saturn is often associated with Satan, the color black, and yeah. So this was when Israel rolled out their vaccine passport. So this is option number 1. I have a higher confidence than 50% on this now. The more I think about it, this one seems to make sense. I think everybody feels this one. If the date's not exact, I think it just makes sense that this seal has been opened and we know it. Whether this is the actual day that it was opened, that's where I don't have the highest confidence, and I think I'll show you why I believe that. And before we do, this is actually what it looked like in the sky. It was like this for quite a while. I remember, night after night this summer looking at this and seeing it up there. Another picture, another view from a different part of the planet. Okay, so here's option number 2 for the third seal. And the reason why I say this is option number 2 is because it has to do with the beasts. The beasts in Revelation 4 were mentioned for a reason, to draw our attention to particular events. This one is over by Aquila. You can see the wing of Aquila. So we've already saw the first 2 seals were Aquila and Ophiuchus. So I'm having a hard time with this one, although it is in Capricorn, which has the face of a lamb or an ox. So you could make that argument that that was it. But another potential candidate for this is the blood moon that we saw on November 19th, 2021. That blood moon took place in Taurus, and in particular events that were important on that day is Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty, and Kamala Harris had temporarily become the president of the United States. And what's interesting about this one is not necessarily that the blood moon, not only that the blood moon was in Taurus, but also that the sun was in Libra, which happens to be a balance in the hand of a scorpion. So I don't know if there's dual meaning there. Maybe the seals spanned over a period of time. From what the best I can tell is the seals mark the beginning of events, but maybe there's more to it. I don't know. Interesting to note, this eclipse, I think this adds credence to the first and second beast mentioned in Revelation 13. That eclipse that just happened on November 18th and 19th, it was visible from both the United States and China. So I think this is God marking out first beast, second beast. One thing that I think is important to point out is Revelation 6:6, that the voice is in the middle or the midst of the four beasts, which talks about hyperinflation. That's where it talks about, and I heard a voice saying a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny. So I think it's pretty well established that that's talking about hyperinflation, which we are definitely seeing that. And it's important to note that that's in the middle of the four beasts. I hear this often taught that the seal number 3 and the black horse are what introduce hyperinflation. That's not the way that I read this. The seal number 3 with the black horse, I believe, is probably the mandates, because those are inconvenient laws that are enslaving the whole world. These mandates, they're leading to that mark of the beast, I think, where you can't buy, sell, or trade without it. Yeah, so this is being in the middle of the four beasts. I think it's pointing us to understand that the hyperinflation is the result of the events that happen from the seals that are opened. And then this is the last one. I'm not entirely sure because this is a future event. I don't think this has happened. There was a period of time that I did think that the fourth seal had already been opened. I thought it was the jab, and that was based on a video that I watched from the doctor who had introduced the protocol that first was used to treat. It was the first therapy used to treat COVID before we had the jab, and that was with the zinc and the hydrochloroquine and the Z-Pak. So go look up that guy and look up his testimony to Israel, to the political leaders in Israel. He makes a comment in there that he thinks it has the potential to kill 2 billion. And he also mentions that the guy who invented the technology behind the jab is not supporting it because he says it has the greatest potential for causing worldwide genocide ever. So that's why I had thought that the pale green horse, the seal for the pale green horse, had already been opened. But the more I look at that, I don't think it has, because we haven't reached those numbers yet. Maybe we will in a couple of years, but we haven't yet. And also what's important that is making me think that it hasn't been opened yet is it reads, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse." That word is pale is green. It's the word chloros. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So it doesn't, there's no slow burn here. So if my original theory was true, then there would be a slow burn on people dying. What it says is he's given power over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death. And I don't know how you kill with death. Maybe that's the jab right there. And with the beasts of the earth. So what makes more sense to me is that there's actually an attack. And given what I've started to learn about the documentaries with China and what they're doing, it would make more sense that there would be an actual attack, that there would be a great loss of life. And one potential celestial event that's coming up is on 12/4/2021. We have a comet that I'm hearing mixed reports on the visibility of this, but there happens to be an eclipse on 12/4/2021. It's pointing out the southern region in Antarctica. I don't know if that's significant of hell. I think that might be. That's what's kind of leading me to think that this might be the celestial event that's pointing to that seal being opened. Is the eclipse is basically on the bottom of the earth, and that's where this is going by. It's the eclipse will be. See, and I'm getting mixed reports. I thought that they had said it was going to be visible to the naked eye on 12/4/2021, but then another astronomy expert said that it won't be visible to the naked eye until 12/12/2021. So I'm not sure. The only relevant thing that is happening, so it's going to be coming close to Earth. It will be on the 12th or the 14th. It will be doing a flyby close to Venus. I think it'll be in conjunction with Venus, which Venus represents the Messiah, the bright and morning star. But here's the other thing is once it makes its swing around the Earth and starts heading out, we're never going to see it again. It's supposedly going out of the galaxy. So I don't know if that's significant or symbolic that death is going to be swallowed up in victory. That's kind of why I'm pointing this out. I think that this comet, so this is a comet right here. It's called C/2021 A1 Leonard, and it just happens to be green. And then one of the astronomers that looked at this in a really high-powered telescope, they noticed that it has two tails. So it actually has two tails. So this could be that pale green horse, death and hell followed. So if I'm right about this, and if I'm right about everything that I've seen so far, we could be looking at an attack from China as soon as December 4th, between December 4th and 12th. That's going to potentially cause a large number of casualties. So, here's the observers, one of the drawings that they said with the two tails. So you've got the big wide tail and you've got the little tail in it. So I hate to leave it on that note, but I wanted to get this information out here for you. Hopefully from this presentation, you can see that God uses the stars to show information, to show us location, to give us time. We're commanded to watch for the return of Christ. And I think that we can get pretty close. If it's true that we're saved from the wrath to come, the good news that I can leave you on is it looks like it might actually be on December 4th. And that would line up with a lot of things. We've already started Hanukkah, and, there's a lot of significance there. So I hope this blesses you. Let me know if there's anything that I left out or anything you want to know. Take care.